Today we are checking out the Fort Stanwix National Monument. Today is Sunday, so their museum is closed. Here we have a Native American. What kind of boat is this, Michelle? The gateway between east and west. For centuries, water was the easiest way to move people, goods, and ideas. Hundreds of tons of trade goods passed over Oneida carrying place. Here, raw materials sent from the Great Lakes region passed manufactured goods heading west. There's a Native American holding furs to trade.
Oh, he's trading some furs, eh? And this man's like, can you help me out? Got his hand out.
And they're trading weapons for furs.
He's got earrings, huh? Whoa.
Fort community. The Fort Stanwix is best known for the 1777 siege, but such dramatic events were not a feature of everyday life.
Chase like a group of freaking kids who just like walk by and grab a cell phone. Fucking chase after them. It was like, oh, it's probably not. I thought it was.
Here's the main entrance. And there's the town of Rome, all the shops. We got some reinforcements to help us fight the battles today. We're gonna send the scouts out. This is the changing area for the soldiers. Fort Stanwix defending the Mohawk Valley.
Mom, do you want to do a race? You want to do a race? Mom, do you want to do a race? Who wants to do a race?
Okay, here's the bridge. And this was full of water and alligators. What?
Hey.
Just kidding about the alligators. Yes, mister.
Maybe
Sonic, what's up? Go, run.
Can you do like a race?
Yeah, let's go do a race. Run, run. Tell them the bad guys are coming. Tell the soldiers. Wow. Look how they used to close the gate with this, the mechanics behind it, the chain and the weights. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
You want to take a guess as to how much each of these weigh?
I would say about 1,000 pounds, maybe.
You're very close. Do you want to take a guess?
Oh, he can't count to 20. Eric, how much do you think that weighs? 100. Yeah, there's a nice one.
He's a little closer. It is 1,200 pounds.
Ah.
1,200 pounds. And to put that into perspective for you, that is about the weight of an adult male polar bear. So you've got 2 polar bears
Yep.
that you've got to close every time you want to close this drawbridge.
How many people did it take? I'm sure a lot.
It took about 10. It took 10 people on either side, and because it is so heavy and it takes quite a little bit of manpower, it wasn't ever close to our knowledge during this fort's use.
This whole thing was reconstructed, right?
Correct.
Yeah. But
It's funny we should talk about the drawbridge then, because that's actually the biggest point of conjecture with us. Because we know there's a drawbridge here for sure. What the mechanism was is a little more fuzzy. So this is what was a common design at the time.
right.
We don't know. If
Yeah, it just caught my eye. I've never really even paid attention to what opens or closes a drawbridge.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Some of the forts, I know, like on the road that has like a very cranking system.
Oh yeah.
Usually This is a little easier. This is called a counterbalance
Okay.
drawbridge.
Right.
So you would attach a rope to either side, have your 10 guys on either side pull. Once it gets to a certain point, gravity's going to kick in.
Oh man.
And so gravity's actually going to be doing half the work.
They should have added a side door just to avoid all that.
For the drawbridge.
To let folk, I mean, you really don't need to open it if you got 1 or 2 people coming in.
So that's staying open the whole time. And
Right.
the reasons it's staying open the whole time is because there were families that were living out in that ditch.
Oh, okay.
So you wanted them to have access to the fort. Plus you're having people constantly going out to defend the gardens, going out to hunt. You're going to want this drawbridge open unless
Unless you have some
dictate you
situations.
absolutely have to.
Yeah.
And even during the siege, it wasn't closed because most of the fighting was happening on the north side of the fort. And
Oh,
they
wow.
figured as long as we keep these doors closed, we keep that gate closed, we keep it all protected. There used to be this structure called a ravelin. As long as we keep that guarded, we don't have to close this until the last minute. And that's if they decide to bust through the front doors of the fort, and that's one of the most defended places of the fort. So it was never closed.
Gotcha,
But
gotcha.
what they do have, you're talking about a little gate.
Mhm.
Well, they had like a sailing port. This
Oh, I
is
see.
the side door part of the fort
Mhm.
for such a small excursion. If they wanted to sneak out, sneak back in, if there was. If they just didn't want to open these gates, these are about 1,000 pounds each.
They look it.
If they just wanted to look outside, they would go through the sailing port.
Wow.
And if you didn't want to open these gates,
Mhm.
but you still wanted a few people to go out on guard duty, and we were under siege, so you probably shouldn't close or open these gates. You would have this there.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. A small door for a couple of folks to.
Exactly. So this is
Very
called
cool.
Wicket Gate.
A wicket gate?
A wicket gate.
Okay. Comes with a fancy lock and everything.
Yes, our fancy slab of wood. And this is a pretty interesting bit because A, this is where the phrase sticky wicket comes from. B, you might notice that the grain of the wood is different on either side.
Right.
So if you are, say, chopping through the wood on this side, it's going to be easier until you hit about this halfway point.
Oh.
And then you're going to be chopping against the grain. So this is still defended
Okay,
within
I
its
see
own
exactly what you mean.
range. Yeah, so you've got it going
Wow.
this way on one side.
Surprised they didn't use fire to try to, I'm sure they did, maybe.
No, you
Was
are very right. That's a very good observation.
I mean,
And they probably would have taken this fort if the British had brought incendiaries.
mhm.
But the commander of the British forces, his name was Barry St. Ledger, he didn't believe that this place was well defended, and he brought artillery to reflect that. So he brought about 4 cannons and 4 mortars, and he definitely did not think it through. He was working on old information that was provided to him by the British, as opposed to new information provided by the Loyalists and the Indians, which he did not trust and did not like, but knew the Mohawk Valley better than his British did, and knew how to get more up-to-date information than his British did. So if he had listened to them, chances are he would have brought some incendiary stuff and this fort would have burned down.
Right, right.
As it were, they still managed to set a few fires, small fires, inside the fort, but nothing that would actually cause any harm.
How many soldiers would it house?
So on average, between 300 to 500.
I was thinking around 300.
Yeah, yeah. So that's at its most comfortable. During the siege, though, there were about 800 people here.
Wow.
Because we had the original regiment garrisoning this place, which was the 3rd New York. They had between 300 and 500 people. You've got information that the British are going to attack. So another regiment gets brought up from Massachusetts, and the Massachusetts regiment brings about another 150 people with them. So now you're at 650, and you need supplies when you're about to go become under siege. So a fort near us, and not quite as big as this, but it's where modern day Herkimer, New York is. It was called Fort Dayton, and they sent supplies up here, and they've sent it with a regiment of about 100. And would you believe it? The British came on the same day at the same time that the people who were bringing supplies did. So now you've got the folks from Fort Dayton trapped in here as well.
Wow.
So
wow. And how long did the siege take place?
So it started August 3rd, ended August 24th. That's 21 days. It ended due to a breakdown in diplomacy between the British and the Native Americans, who they are allied with. The Native Americans made up about half of their force at this point, as an allied nation, essentially. And so you've got the British, who have heard that there's, you've got this battle. It's called the Battle of Oriskany. And in this battle, the British abstain, but the Loyalists and the Indians go out and engage. Part of the British agreement with the natives, which were Seneca and Mohawk, mostly from the Iroquois Confederacy, the Haudenosaunee, they agreed to make this a quick engagement. They agreed to let the Iroquois plunder as they wanted to, and do their traditional stuff, and they agreed to that they wouldn't have to fight any of the other Iroquois nations, like the Cayuga, the Onondaga, the Oneida.
Yep, they had a pact, I'm sure.
Yes.
That's what the flag stands for, I think,
yes.
the different nations.
Yes, exactly. So you're familiar with the whole wampum belt?
Somewhat, yes.
It was a unified front until this battle. And the Battle of Oriskany, the Seneca and the Mohawk, they had to fight the Oneida, because the Oneida had allied themselves with the Americans, and they ended up being the ones that were ambushed at this battle. So the British are over there after the battle. The Native Americans are very angry that they lost resources when we ended up sending out a sortie from the fort to raid their camps. So instead of plundering, they got plundered. They were promised this was going to be a quick engagement, and now it's been 3 weeks at this point. This is not how they do things. And they also had to fight their brethren. So they hear that this guy, you might have heard of him, Benedict Arnold, was coming from Albany, and that he was bringing 3,000 people with him. And that really was the final excuse for the Iroquois to go, okay, you know what, Barry St. Ledger, it's been fun, but
you guys are on your own.
Our promises.
Yep.
Exactly. And now we've got 3,000 people on the way here, and I don't want to deal with it. Also, it's harvesting season. I need to get back home. So as long as you're here at Barry St. Ledger, we are going to get at least one thing that we were promised. And so they plundered Barry St. Ledger's camps, all the British camps, and left. Now that's half of your army gone. And now you are also being raided. And also Benedict Arnold's on the way with 3,000 people.
Yep.
So that forced the British to retreat. And Benedict Arnold comes the day after with about 1,000 people because he had lied.
Which is still a lot of people.
It's still a lot
but
of people.
Yes, it makes people nervous. 3,000 people coming to meet you.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for all the information. I really appreciate it.
And
Can't
thank
wait.
you for letting me know they were able to do programming. So
Right, that's exciting. Perfect timing.
Yes.
And the weather held for now.
Yes.
So
Yes, indeed.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hey, good. Can't wait to check out the history behind this place.
Well, feel free to walk, Bouncer. In front of each of the barracks, you're going to find signs that talk about everything that happened there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so you can say, hey, cool, you're both
In the 18th century, prison was not considered punishment in itself. Prisoners were those awaiting sentence. Punishment was usually painful and humiliating, performed in public as an example to the rest of the garrison. And this was their prison. You can see the shackles back there, a couple of beds. Artisans' quarters.
Yep. I like to use my pinky.
Yeah, I do too. Hopefully it doesn't have.
You can see a blueprint of the fort.
This is a bullet hole. So, you put a piece of cloth in case it gets slimed.
Some stuff. Storeroom and siege. This bomb-proof with a ventilation shaft leading to the top of the bastion was considered the best place for keeping food, salt, meat, peas, flour, rice, and vinegar, and other non-weapon supplies. For most of Fort's history, it was a storage area for such provisions. During the 1777 siege, the bomb-proof was converted to a makeshift hospital. All right. Go up here for a second. The walls of the fort. You got some cannons up here. You got Old Glory waving in the wind, as she should. Some big guns up here on this platform. We are in the center courtyard. There's a post for public punishment for prisoners. And this bad boy was rebuilt in the 18th century. Surgeon's day room. In a room such as this, the fort surgeon would have diagnosed the sick and treated the day-to-day illnesses of the garrison. The main illnesses were muscle strain due to constant hard labor needed to run the fort, and infection diseases contracted in the crowded and unfavorable conditions prevalent at the fort. They used bloodletting for a lot of the common illnesses. What is bloodletting? Place a patient's hand in hot water and swell veins. Tie a cloth tape at the pulse area of the wrist. Patient opens and closes hand 2 or 3 times to increase swelling. Patient's hand is stretched open and the vein is pierced lengthwise with a small knife called a lancet. The patient's hand is dipped in hot water to make the blood flow freely, and the cloth tape is loosened to allow the impure blood to escape. Wow, how times have changed. Hey, Eric. It's a lot of information on each of the little hut entrances. Visit officers' lodging. Regiments were posted to the fort anywhere from 4 months to 2 years. As companies moved in and out of the fort, a space like this served as temporary lodging for the officers of a newly arriving regiment. So, and they have family quarters. This is what it looked like. Big fireplace, a couple of bunk beds, and that's pretty much it. How they used to wash their clothes. Commander's quarter. This room has been laid out to look like the commander's quarters. The original quarters was located in the headquarters building, which was not reconstructed.
Daddy, follow me. I feel something like really scary.
Oh, Eric's gonna show me something really scary. And this is the soldiers' quarters.
And I hear you.
Ooh, Eric, do you want to live here?
I was just kept.
Who wants to spend a night here?
I found a dead body up there.
You did? Let's go move it.
No, I'll show you.
We gotta move all the dead bodies before the next regiment arrives. We don't want to spook them, do we? Boys, I don't, and girls, don't climb. This is not a game room. This place holds historic value.
There's an army.
Not a game room.
I see your phone on your backpack.
Oh, good. Look at this fireplace, guys.
Yeah,
This is how they would stay warm in the winter, huddled around this fireplace. And this would warm up the entire hut.
This is actually a good thing to say.
Yeah, this was cozy in a winter storm, huh?
Granny's house.
This is like Granny's house?
Imagine there's a lock and there's like a secret key. You have a sound.
Mm-hmm.
If you get like
I'm gonna go this way, Michelle. I hear some of these rooms are for rent. I don't know. What is this? Artillerymen. Artillery was a specialist discipline back in the day, requiring knowledge of math and use of measuring tools to calculate trajectories of cannon and mortar. Yeah, so don't want to blow yourself and your fellow soldiers up, so you better know what you're doing. And this is where they would house the artillerymen, and well, just men. Sutler. What is Sutler? Oh my! Sutler was a civilian trader who acted as a link between the fort and the outside world. He traded with the local American Indians, periodically taking furs to Albany to exchange for money or other goods. So he's the guy who would get along with everyone and anyone to get the job done. Sutler's premises, where they would come in and trade goods and services. You got furs over here, pans, all types of knickknacks. The missionaries' quarters. While missionaries generally went into Indian lands simply with a desire to spread the word of the Christian God and to do good works, the American Revolution involved them in political missions as well. Both the Americans and the British used their missionaries in attempts to sway the Indians to one side or another. And the missionaries' quarters. Very nice. So yeah, imagine what life must have been like here back in the day. Must have been very, very difficult. Soldiers' quarters. Casemate. This space represents a typical quarters for regular soldiers, A casemate of this size would have housed at least 40 soldiers every night. One travel group at a time. It's kind of dark in here. Wow, they would just pile on this giant bed. 40 soldiers. So you'd probably have 10 people sleeping here. It's almost like a horse barn. The conditions they stayed in, that they lived in. And they would sleep on straw. No mattresses back in the day. Ooh, can you imagine? Can you imagine the atmosphere here? And what's this over here? This goes underground. Okay. Southeast bomb-proof. This bomb-proof was used as a bakehouse in 1777. Bread was baked here for the soldiers. So it was a little bakery. Let's go upstairs. Got some more cannons back here, or a cannon. Yep, but there are soldiers posted all around for a nice panoramic view surrounding the fort.
Good guess. Another great guess.
Poison ivy.
Really, I
No.
hope you wouldn't be eating poison ivy. Uh-oh. So these are wild strawberries.
Oh, let me see. Oh,
Yeah, they're a lot smaller than the ones you get.
Nobody looks at
They're kind of like the ones that are growing in our backyard.
Mhm.
No, no one
They
lives
don't
in
get
the
very
forest.
big.
I look like that.
She was
I like
saying
mine better
some of
than
these
mine's
plants
better.
were made for wounds, mouthwash,
My
and you
feet are
could eat some of them.
Mm,
Very cool.
I like.
You could. There was
One of them was milkweed, and you could use it for like latex.
Oh, very nice.
So that's why we have.
Let's touch the water. What is this?
They're very dog friendly here, which is awesome. And this would have been the orderly room. The orderly room was the headquarters of the fort, where officers conducted the general business of the fort, writing daily garrison orders, holding meetings, completing paperwork, and staging court martials. courts-martial. A court-martial this day by order of Cole Peter Ganswood for the trial of Sergeant Dowler of Capt. Greg's Company, Confin. So this was the brains of the operation. All the decision making would be held in this building.
Whoa.
I made a wild sword.
Yeah.
The kids are enthralled about the history of this place.
Now that lady knows her stuff.
Where's Cameron?
Like, I'll make the
He's still over talking to the lady.
Oh, okay. So here's a little information poster. Talks about when it was rebuilt and the discovery of the fort, 18th century. Here's the site in 1969. There's a star back here, and here's the site